Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Get to Know Her. I am so happy to be here, and I am so excited for the interview today. There's a couple of little housekeeping things I need to let you know of. So this is going to be our final episode for the before the summer break. I'm going to take a couple of months off, just enjoy myself. We did that last year as well, and I will look forward to being back here again in September with all of you. So we have the perfect guest today as the final guest of the season. You're going to just love this interview. Before I introduce her, though, I wanted to talk to you about my outfit today. So I've got this lovely little ocean blue, sky blue top from Brenda Badome. This is really giving me the summer vibes today. And I've paired it with some glam jewels, of course, that coordinate nicely with it. And then I will stand up and show you my pants. I have Brenda's white pants on, super comfy, super awesome, nice and thick. Nobody can see my underwear through these, which is really great. So make sure you go on her website and check out her white pants. They really are the best white pants you could have in your closet. You can go to brendabadome.com, and please do not forget to use the coupon code Get to Know Her for 22% off of your order when you shop with Brenda. And then head on over to Glam Jewels and grab the coordinating accessories. Another thing I wanted to say about Glam Jewels, if you're not on our Glam Jewels email list, you're going to want to be, because this week we are launching just before Canada Day, a big project that we're doing with friends of ours in Rockwood, Ontario, Hides in Hand, who work in beautiful leather. So we've done a collaboration with them. You will find out about it first if you're on our email list, and you'll get first opportunity to buy also if you're on our email list. So if you haven't gone to glamjewels.com and subscribed, please make sure you do that. And then there's lots for you to do today. I got a list. And then if you're watching this interview on YouTube, you must subscribe to this channel. We got to have you in the Get to Know Her family and update you as we do more interviews, but you've got lots of great ones to listen to over the summer. There's over 85 interviews with incredible entrepreneurial women. You're going to love that. So without further ado, let's introduce today's guest. I cannot wait for you to meet Chantal Ingram. Don't ever say that you're too old to make your dreams come true. After more than 20 years and at 52 years old, Chantal Ingram finally made her dream of opening her own store a reality. In October of 2021, Chantal opened Flourish and Bask, a downtown Oakville boutique that specializes in everything for the home bartender and host. Although it wasn't the original concept for her store, Chantal has found a niche that was missing in Oakville and has learned a lot about cocktails along the way. Chantal spent years working in retail, and her dream of opening her own shop took shape while working at an Oakville home decor boutique in the late 1990s. As many women do, she took a career detour to raise her daughters and landed in Halton's nonprofit sector. She spent almost 12 years building a career in fundraising, but never lost her passion for retail. She just had to wait until the time was right. I fully believe that everything happens for a reason, and I needed to travel down this path before I could realize my dream, Chantal admits. I gathered the experience I needed to run my own business. The fates were aligned to bring me back to downtown Oakville at this time, even if it took more than 20 years to happen. I finally feel as though I have come home again. Chantal advocates for women to continue to follow their passion no matter their age. She never would have thought she'd jump into this adventure in her 50s, but encourages other women to do the same. She believes too many women get lost in the shuffle of daily life, raising families, and forgetting that their dreams still matter. She hopes to be an example of how, with some hard work and determination, anyone can make their dreams come true. I think she already is an example of that. I am so excited. Let's bring on Chantal.
Hey!
Yeah! Hi! I'm so happy. I love your bio. My God,
thank
it's
you.
So good. And you're so right. We have to be living our dreams. What are we waiting for?
I know, like, I don't know why it took me 52 years to realize it, but, you know, well, 50-ish years. And yeah, it takes a while sometimes to realize it. But once you make it happen, it's all worth it.
Yeah, everything falls into place.
It really
and
does.
that doesn't mean it's easy, but it falls into place. So Chantal, I wanted to, I'm going to ambush you with a question that I ask all my guests. I don't know if you know about this question, but every guest, the first question you do. Okay.
Yeah.
What did little Chantal want to be when she grew up?
So it's funny because I've been watching your interviews and I've been looking at this question and kind of reflecting, and I don't remember. Like, that's a really weird thing to say, but I think it also kind of, I learned something about myself a while back. And I think as a child, there were so many things I wanted to do. I remember when I was really little, my mother was a nurse. So like every Halloween, I wanted to be a nurse. And I, you know, for a brief period, wanted to be a nurse. And then as a teenager, I don't remember. And even, you know, we used to do these like career quizzes in high school where they would give you like this big questionnaire, and then you'd get this like printout from the guidance office, and it would have all these like, you would be compatible with this. And I can remember it was the weirdest combination. I could be a data coordinator, an interior designer, I forget what else, maybe like a photographer, like, and then something else kind of math related. So it was like the weirdest possible combination of things. Went to university with the intent of becoming a teacher. And by the fourth year, when it came time to start applying for teachers college, I realized that's not what I wanted to do. So I went back to school. I had been working in the summers in a seniors home. So I went back to school. I took gerontology and thought, yeah, I really would love to pursue it. Career in gerontology. So I have a diploma in gerontology from Sheridan College. And then I didn't really want to do that. So then I thought I'd want to take interior design. So I went back to school and I took interior design. And then that wasn't really what I wanted to do. And by this time I had been working in the home decor industry in downtown Oakville, was loving it, like absolutely loving it. Happy times. I got married and then I had my first daughter. So we're talking 21 years ago. And I took the time off to become a mom. So I stayed home for 3 years when she was born. And I worked part-time in retail, which was actually less expensive than going to work full-time and paying for someone. I could work in the evening when my husband was home. I worked on the weekend. And I really enjoyed it. Then after 3 years, I went back to work in the wine industry, actually managing a Peller Estates store. And again, loved it. Loved that wine world. Like, so it's all kind of foreshadowing. Still didn't really want to know. Like, I always woke up and kind of thought, what do I want to do with my life? In the meantime, I had, my brother was taking marketing at Sheridan College, and I had a few of his textbooks from some of his courses. So while I was off with my daughter, I taught myself marketing. So essentially just, taught myself marketing. Then ended up leaving the wine store with my second daughter, which was 15 years ago. There's 6 years between my girls. And after that, it was like, okay, what do I want to do? And I started volunteering. I thought, well, I'm going to take some time off again. Started volunteering at my daughter's school, running a snack program that they had. Yeah. And this is where Monica and I met, was when I worked, I ended up getting a job part-time, worked beautifully with my daughter, who was about 2 at the time. I worked for Halton Food for Thought, and that started my career in the nonprofit world. And Monica and I met there because she's a super fabulous human who does, contributes portions of her sales to Halton Food for Thought. And still, like, I followed this path. Right. And again, this is like, I know this is about what did I want to be when I grow up, but I really didn't figure it out until like a year ago. So the path just kept going. I got this job and I enjoyed it. Like, I liked the nonprofit world. There was a lot of stuff I loved about it. It afforded me the opportunity to have my hands in everything. It was marketing. It was, fundraising is like sales, right? So there was fundraising, there was managing people, there was a lot of stuff. So I learned and grow. and I progressed quickly till I was director of programs and then director of marketing. I left them. I moved to another organization where I became a major gifts officer. Left them for an even more senior role where I became a director of philanthropy and marketing. And then that's the job I lost. There was a lot going on in the organization. And I think with me at the same time, perimenopause, which makes us completely crazy.
Can we just say right up, for anybody who's not had perimenopause yet, when you hear people talk about menopause, that I'm in menopause now, that part's easy. Perimenopause. So ladies in your 30s, 40s, if you're starting to feel like,
if you're starting to feel crazy and just not yourself. And so I was just sort of in the thick of all of that. And I had this, you know, position, which for all intents and purposes was the highest paid position I'd ever had, was the highest responsibility. And somewhere in the back of my head, it was never right. And so a lot of change went on in the organization. And there's a lot of pressure in the nonprofit world. People don't understand the pressure because it's always about money and finances, and you're always looking to the next grant or looking to the next big donor. And it's very tense. And I lost my job, and it was 9 months before my 50th birthday. And I never lost a job in my entire life. And all of a sudden that question, what do you want to be when you grow up, kind of hit me in the face. Like, I've kind of spent the last almost 20 years not really following that dream, right? And not really stepping back. And so I had a really hard time. The first year was 2019, just the year before the pandemic. I was able to do some consulting work, so I brought in a little bit of money, but I kept applying to jobs and it just never felt right. Like, I would apply to the job and then I would get an interview, and I almost self-sabotaged interviews. Like, I didn't give really great interviews because I think deep in my heart, I knew that it really wasn't for me. And then
Chantal, I wanted to ask you, when you were going through and also just the impact of being fired for the first time, a lot of women have had that where, you know, it's like, this has never happened. And as women too, we're, you know, like, a lot of us are raised to be good, don't cause waves, do it. So getting fired can be a real blow to the ego and to, you know, who you thought you were. And you can, did you have any support during that time? Did you see like any sort of career counselor or anybody to help you to kind of deal with that? Or were you able to move through it? I'm just
well, it's funny. I got laid off in January and I had what I call dark February. Like, February, I think I just watched hours of Netflix, and I sat on the couch and I felt sorry for myself. And because it had been such a tumultuous time, it was a very difficult year leading up to the layoff. And I blamed myself for a lot of it. And it was that, you know, what's wrong with me? And then I gave myself some distance. And then I stepped out of it and I leveraged my network, as you would. I reached out to everybody and anybody. And I literally was going out for coffee or lunch once or twice a week with different friends and picking their brains and, you know, sharing my experience, and they shared theirs. And I realized that it wasn't, it was just, I was in a situation at a certain time, and it wasn't the right place for me, and it wasn't the right thing for the organization. And I was able to come to peace with that. And it wasn't easy. And then it was also allowing myself to understand that it didn't define me, right? Like that I needed to redefine myself, and knowing that it always kind of felt icky, right? Like, I was in this job that I thought was supposed to be it, and it never really felt good. Right. You know? Like, there was a lot of parts of the job that I loved, but there was a lot of it that I just was like going through the motions. So
I love this. I just want to say one thing that I love about this. It's like, I think, and I know this was in 2019, and we've all had a lot of feels through the pandemic, but being the age, because you and I are both the same age, I keep asking myself, are all the changes I'm making because of the pandemic, or is it actually because this is how women in their 50s are? We start to really see like what is serving us well, what isn't, what works, what doesn't work, what's in it for us in life.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
what the hell is in it for us? We, you know, we're doing for others. And when is it our time, right?
I think we're all going through it. And the other thing that I'm super fortunate about is that I have a group of friends. We began as a book club, and we've been together as a book club for, we now might just call ourselves a drinking club, but we started together. I think we're going on 10 years now that we've all been together. So we all started celebrating 40th birthdays. And then throughout, you know, the 2018 to now, I think we all started celebrating 50th birthdays. And so there's 8 of us. And I've really been lucky that, you know, we haven't through the pandemic, but we're trying to get together. We used to get together once a month.
Yeah.
And, you know, was like, hey, like, is anybody else like, you know, getting their period 1 month and then not getting it for 4 months and then getting it for like 2 months at once? And so we could bounce things off of each other, or, you know, who isn't sleeping and what are you doing because you're not sleeping? And, you know, so I was really lucky. And so when I lost my job as well, I had friends there who could prop me up. And even through, you know, hey, I'm thinking about opening a store. And it was right away like, oh, yeah, absolutely, you should do it. You know, I had this really awesome cheer section.
Oh,
so
I love that.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate because I know often women don't support women, which is horrible. But I think in our group, we're all very supportive, and we're all different, and we're all at different stages. Like some are stay-at-home moms, some have been working for years, some have bigger careers, some are just heading back into careers. Like we're all in different places, and we still relate. So It's great. So yeah, so they were a big support. I managed to get through it. Yeah. Finally, at the end of 2019, my husband looked at me applying for all these jobs and just being unhappy and, you know, starting to get upset because, you know, unemployment insurance was running out. And, you know, because I hadn't been at the other job long, I didn't get much to take us through. We were living on one income. And my husband looked at me and he said, when you used to work at the store downtown, it was called Harvest at the time.
Yes, I remember that store.
Yeah. And they closed in 2019 when they were called Soap and Water, so people may remember. But he said, when you used to work at Harvest, what did you hate about that job? I was like, I don't know, like maybe like cranky customers sometimes. And he just looked at me and he said, there's your answer. You need to do it yourself. And so he just, you know, he kind of cemented it. And it was almost as well as I was almost seeking permission from him as well, right? Because, you know, when you're in a couple and I didn't, let's just say, I didn't have that corporate bankroll. You know, you hear all these women who like, well, I had a really big 6-figure corporate job. And so I just left and opened my own business. Well, we didn't have that. I didn't work for 3 years, went back to a retail job. Then I didn't work full time for another 3 years. And my husband worked nonprofit for a very long time. So we didn't have years of savings to fall back on. We were literally living paycheck to paycheck on one income. And to jump into doing that again, like we had just, you know, both of us, our careers were on this like upward arc. And for me to lose mine and then all of a sudden say, yeah, let's go back to where we were 10 years ago when we were on one income and not going on vacations and, you know, thinking twice about buying expensive shoes for our kids. So it was really, he's been phenomenal because as I'm sure everybody knows, the first few years of business, you don't make a lot of money. I've been open for almost 9 months now and I haven't taken an income yet. But I'm doing very well. Like, don't get me wrong. The store has been phenomenal. But it's not easy. So we made those choices. So we went into it knowing. I was also very, very, very fortunate to have a mother who supported me through this. So my mother is the one who gave me the startup capital for this business. It's a loan, with particularly phenomenal terms. So, so I was very lucky, right? So I don't say that this was just like plucked out of the air. You know, maybe I manifested it at the time. I don't know. Whatever you would like to believe, the timing just happened to fall into place. Originally, I was going to open in April of 2020. In late February 2020, I was in negotiation for a space on Lakeshore Road in downtown Oakville. And the realtor went on vacation. So she said, we'll connect when I get back. So she was away the first week and a bit of March. On March 10th, my mother had a pulmonary embolism, which ended up putting her in the hospital for 10 weeks. She was on life support for a couple of weeks. It was touch and go. And that was the beginning of the pandemic. So, you know, we got thrown into the pandemic very early. My family, we were in the hospital. We were forced to wear masks and gowns. They actually thought that she had COVID. So she would have been the first case in Halton region. We still don't think that she didn't have it because testing at the time, like they weren't even testing in Halton at that time. They did a COVID test and had to send it to Toronto. And we had to wait for 4 days to find out if she had COVID or not. Like that's how brand new this whole thing was. Yeah. And we couldn't go in her house. We couldn't go in her car. They put her into an isolation unit. We couldn't go in the room with her. Like it was something out of a movie. It was so freaky. So the pandemic just sort of set all of my plans back. Then while she was in the hospital, Mom sold her house and was moving into a condo. So we dealt with that, got Mom into her home. And I basically took a year to make sure she was okay, right? Like I was there every week to take her out to do groceries. You know, she had a gallbladder surgery in there. She had a glaucoma surgery. And so, you know, the focus wasn't on me. I gave up the dream of the store. The space I was looking at got rented to someone else. And I put it on hold. And it wasn't until last August that, again, my husband, you know, again, I was like, well, I have to get a job. I need to start earning some money. Same conversation, you know. And I wouldn't even go downtown Oakville for about a year from 2020 to the beginning of 2021, mid 2021. I wouldn't even go downtown Oakville because I said, I don't want to go there. It's done. Like, I'm not opening my store. I'm just going to go back and be a fundraiser. That's what I do.
Wow.
And
what an emotional thing. Like, it was too painful for you to even walk the street of your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it was almost like grieving, right? Like I was grieving the loss of the dream and I just gave it up. Like my husband kept saying, well, why don't you think? And I don't want to talk about it. And he let me. He was very good. He knew, don't pick at the scab. And he just kind of let me sit with it until about August last year. And then around the beginning of August, he's finally said, okay, we're going downtown. And we started to look, and he started to gently push me back into it. And I had written extensive business plans, and I had worked with the Halton Region Small Business Center, and they had helped me with the business plans and a lot of, I was doing a business proposal at the time to present to a bank. And I just started to open the documents on my computer again and just kind of look at them and think, okay, if I did open a store, the original name of the store would have been the hosting company. And it was all about hosting people in your home. So obviously I had to pivot with the name and the concept, right? Like,
you're kidding. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So if I am going to open at the tail end of a pandemic or middle of a pandemic, I don't think encouraging people to bring people into their homes. So I thought, what can I do with the same concept of this, selling the same items, and I think it's something that was a learning through the pandemic as well. Like, we don't often spoil ourselves, right? Like, you save the good china for when you have company over, or like that one recipe that you absolutely love, but you never make it for yourself. You only make it when people come over. Yeah. And, you know, that thing that you bake that, again, you'd never think to just bake it on a Saturday for you and your family. You wait until company's coming and it's special. And I think what happened during the pandemic is that we were like, screw it, I'm making the cake. I'm going to make that fancy, you know, vegetable lasagna that I only make when company comes over. And it was kind of, for me, like, that's what we did. Like we reveled in food and drink. And, you know, for Mother's Day of 2020, my husband actually bought me a cocktail set. So like a shaker and a mixing glass. And I started to look up cocktail recipes and started making cocktails at home.
I love it.
So I really thought, you know what, we're stuck in this. We're going to get back to a place where we're hosting, but how can I open a store that's going to celebrate the art of entertaining, but is telling people to just do it at home, like do it for yourself. Take the time to mix yourself a really cool cocktail, set the table, light some beautiful candles, drink out of an incredible glass, and do it for yourself as well as when you entertain. And the other piece is that when you entertain, it's not actually that hard to make it pretty. Like, don't worry about whether the floor is swept, but like, put out a nice vase of flowers, light some candles, mix a really good cocktail. And you know what? Go to the great restaurant down the street, but serve the food on like really nice dishes. And when people leave, they're going to talk about the food, the drink, the conversation, but they don't care if you didn't scrub the bathtub, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not, those are the, so.
Yeah, I actually love that on your website where you say at the end, like they won't notice that you didn't sweep the floor. They're going to remember the ambience and how they felt. And it's so true. And I love it when I go to someone's house and the floor is not swept. I'm like, oh, they're real people.
Right? Yeah, you love that, right? Like, and I mean, I'm not going to say my husband is behind me, you know, I'm sure he's in the back of my head saying, but you go mental when people come over, you always want to clean. But I'm finding less lately, right? But that's the other thing about the pandemic. I think we all kind of like, you know, we gave up some of the high pressure stuff to just be like, whatever, right? Like we just have to take it. So when I opened the store, we were, you know, I finally came up with this new concept. And I said, you know, I think I'm going to do the entertaining thing, but I think I'm going to lean into cocktails. Because there isn't really, like, there's a really incredible store in Toronto called the Cocktail Emporium. I'm never going to be her. She's amazing. She's got 3 stores and they're like super intense cocktails. Like they, like professional bartenders shop there. And my intent is just more for the home bartender. But, and she actually wholesales, which is amazing. So I buy from her and it's amazing. But I thought, you know, I'm going to do the entertaining. I'll have candles and vases and we'll do some fun, you know, dishware and serveware. And I'll do some of this cocktail stuff. And literally from the minute I opened the doors, people were like, oh, a cocktail store, amazing. And they love it. And so, you know, we were trying to, again, think of a name that I could pivot. Because again, with the pandemic, I didn't want to be the hosting company. So we were word doodling. And I said, you know, I really want people, I want to teach people how to flourish, you know, don't, you know, I want people to learn in their home, how do I really flourish in my home? And we were kind of thinking flourish and what flourish. And then I said, and he's like, okay, well, my husband's so great with this. He's really good at coming up with names and he's a brilliant wordsmith. And I said, you know, I want them to be able to like set a beautiful table and then step back. And he came up with the word bask.
Oh, great.
And so I love the two together. Flourish and Bask became the name of the store. It kind of, I wanted it to have a feeling of like an old, almost like an old general store, you know, like it could be 2 people's names. But it also gave me the ability to pivot. So if I started and the cocktail thing or the hosting thing didn't work out, I could pivot to to sell something different. And it was really something I learned from the 2 guys that owned Harvest Soap and Water were phenomenal. And they started as a home decor store, watched the sales. And after a year or 2, they realized that like 80% of the store sales were coming from this tiny little bath section at the back of the store. And they said, oh, we're switching. We closed for a week. They re-merchandised. They brought in new product. And all of a sudden we were Harvest Spa. And it was all about bath and towels and soaps and so they really taught me how to pay attention to your customers and to be able to pivot when you need it to.
That's such good. Wow, that's really great because that is definitely the key to success. And then you're not so attached to one thing, you're open to other ideas. And so I wanted to segue into this because I asked you permission backstage if I could bring this up. So since April, I've decided to stop drinking alcohol, and I don't know how long it will last or if I'll go back or not, but for now I'm feeling pretty good about the decision. And I made the decision based on feeling down during the pandemic, and the alcohol was only contributing to that. And I've got my reasons, but anyway, so I wanted to bring that up with you. And Chantal, share with the people what's going on in the world. Like, now I feel cool, like I'm part of a new wave.
Yeah,
so this is really awesome.
So you are not alone. So I can tell you for a solid fact that there are like hundreds of people, thousands of people, even like across North America, that are now changing the way that they think and relate to alcohol. And as I was telling you earlier, I had a customer who came in a few months ago and he's like, what's hot in the world of cocktails for 2022? And because I'm insane and can't just read like one article about something, I immediately am Googling, and I read about 5 articles from, reputable cocktail blogs. And they all said that alcohol-free is the fastest growing segment in the cocktail world. So before I opened, I had people say, are you going to carry any of those alcohol-free products? I was like, no, like, who's drinking that really? I didn't get it. My first week, I had 3 separate customers ask for alcohol-free. So I found a really awesome company. There's a Canadian company called Sobry. He's been on Dragon's Den. He makes a phenomenal product from Stratford, and he does an alcohol-free gin and an alcohol-free tequila. I brought them into the store. Boom. Like, the sales were incredible. People are loving it. And the good thing for me that worked out is that I am the only store sort of in the Halton area, sort of, west of Toronto, that's selling it. There's some that are sort of further northwest, but so I'm getting people calling me from, like, I had people drive from Ancaster, Hamilton, from Mississauga, shopping at my store to get this product because it's very popular. So I expanded the line. In, I think it was February, I added a product called Naughty, which is, it's very cute, but it's Noughty. Okay. And it's a sparkling wine that's alcohol free. And the cool thing about these products is that they're making gin. So they're making a real gin and removing the alcohol. They're making tequila and the alcohol is removed. So what it does is it imitates the flavor of the real thing. And then same with the sparkling wine. So like, if you poured me a glass of this and didn't tell me it was alcohol free, I wouldn't guess. Right?
God, that's incredible, because I think that's, when I first decided I wasn't going to drink, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just drinking water. Like, that's all there is. Like, and because when you go to the grocery store, you see those alcohol-free wines, they're all
not the same.
Gross. It's like drinking vinegar
or grape juice, right? Like, it's just like sparkling grape juice. Yeah, it's not the same. So these actually give you, so you can have a gin and tonic, you can have a margarita. So what I found is, because my husband and I are slowly trying to work through all the products. Like, I carry syrups, cocktail syrups and bitters, garnishes. Like, I carry all the ingredients to make craft cocktails at home. And we've been trying to work our way through. So what I found is that, on the weeknights, when I don't want to disrupt my sleep, or I don't want to have the alcohol, is I'm making myself an alcohol-free margarita. I'm having a gin cocktail, but I'm using alcohol-free gin. And when I'm talking to customers, which I love to talk to my customers, so I'm learning that there's all different reasons why people are going alcohol free. Some of them are just, they feel that it's not in line with their wellness and their you know, they're big gym people and that just doesn't work for them. A lot of people, it's about mental health and just they didn't like the way it made them feel. I know a lot of women our age, you know, like I don't sleep. Sleep is a huge issue for me these days. And even one drink will disrupt my sleep. So that becomes kind of precious. I had a customer come in whose mother has dementia. And with dementia, it's all about routine. And one of her routines was to have a gin and tonic before dinner. And they had just switched her medication. She was no longer able to have alcohol. So they bought the alcohol free for her so that she could still have a gin and tonic as a part of her routine. I had a pilot who came in who can't have a drink for, I forget if it was 12 or 48 hours before he flies, but he wanted to still feel like he was having a drink with his wife. And so he bought some. So the stories are all over the place. What I'm also finding is that there's a big movement with the younger age group. I have a daughter in her 20s and she's chosen not to drink and she's not alone. There's, as customers are coming in, I've got a lot of young people who come in, they don't drink. They're not interested. They don't want the alcohol. And I think a part of it is there's some like really scary stuff that you hear about girls in bars. And I think that it's a lot of pressure for girls now to have to think about, you know, if I put my drink down, is something going to happen? Or, you know, so they're just, or will I lose control?
I know there's even like, I think maybe you want to carry this. I don't know. There's a nail polish on the market that if you dip it in a drink, it'll change color. So, you know, if someone slipped something.
Yeah. So like, that's a whole different world that we didn't navigate in our 20s.
Oh my God, Chantal, the Gen X, like us. I mean, I was saying to you earlier, like I remember all of us collecting alcohol from our houses, mixing it all together. And then the jungle juice would be like what we drink in the ditch before we went into the high school dance. But yeah, it's just, and it was almost like, I remember feeling like the more I could drink and keep my shit together, like the cooler I felt. And why? Like, why bother with that crap? You know? I mean, that was whatever. We're 16, 17, 18 years old. That's
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there are still a lot of kids out there who are still drinking and partying. And I'm sure you could go to any university across the country and you're going to still find that. Yeah. But I also think that there's more. I think part of it as well, too, is that young people now, when they first get their driver's license, there's that. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 years. I can't remember, but you can't have you can't get pulled over by the police and have any alcohol in your system. So I think that immediately changes attitudes, right? And these kids are so much better than we were in the 80s about drinking and driving and designated drivers because there's more on the line.
Yes,
right? You can lose your license.
Yeah, I have a picture of the day I got my driver's license, and I'm standing in front of my mom and dad's Buick Century with the wood paneling, and I'm holding a rum and Coke.
It's like the irony, right? Yeah.
Underage, having a rum and Coke, just got my license. And, you know, the other thing, too, that was so different for us, like, I don't know if you remember, but if you met somebody that didn't drink, you automatically assume something was wrong with them.
Yeah, it was weird.
It wasn't something that you would admit to or say, or everybody drank. Like, you have a problem? Like, you can't have alcohol? Like, what's your problem?
I remember coming home. My high school graduation was actually held in October. So I went away to my first year of university in September, and I came home at the end of October for the graduation ceremony. And I was showing my mom pictures, and they were like, you know, when we actually printed photos, and I got the photos printed, and I was showing her photographs. And I remember her saying, why do you have a drink in every single photo? Or why is there always alcohol in every single one of these pictures? And it was true. Like, I either had a drink in my hand, or there were bottles behind me, or we were at a bar, like every single photo. And I was just like, well, that's what we do, right? Like,
exactly. And the cigarette smoke everywhere. Cigarettes. Oh God.
Smoke. Yeah. It was just it was a different world, right? Like we didn't think. So now I think we can coexist, right? Like I feel like with the and I know this is the way it is for me, right? Like yeah, I'm not going to lie. There are times where I go to a friend's house and we have a few drinks and we have a good time. I have a very good friend who has a phenomenal Halloween party every year. And that is like, it's like my night once a year that I know I'm going to drink too much tonight because it's Halloween and it's a really fun party. And Halloween's like my favorite thing ever. But for the most part, I really don't drink a ton. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people who are doing that balance. And even we were talking about this earlier about the term mocktail, right? So whenever you hear mocktail, you'd think of like a Shirley Temple or, you know, something that's got too much grenadine in it. And they're not using that term anymore. So there's actually alcohol-free bars are opening. So there are bars that you can go to that they only serve alcohol-free cocktails, and they're not calling them mocktails because they're actual cocktails. Like they're using these gin substitutes or these, like there's whiskey substitutes, there's Campari substitutes, like there's Aperol, like you name it, and people are making it. And so there's a lot. I'm actually working with, I have about 6 different restaurants across Oakville that are shopping at my store now. And I've been talking to a lot of bartenders, and they're all slowly starting to add to their cocktail menu alcohol-free alternatives. So when you go into a fine dining restaurant, you're going to see 2 or 3 of these alcohol-free substitute cocktails. Or they're also doing things like you can make, you know, there's some cocktails like say a Negroni. It's just alcohol, right? Like it's gin, Campari, and it's eluding me at the moment. But anyway, and it's just alcohol. So you can take one of those alcohols and substitute a no alcohol alternative, and then you get a lower alcohol drink. So they're calling it a no low movement. So it's no alcohol or low alcohol. And the advances are incredible. Like in Canada, there are so many sort of artisan distilleries that are starting now to produce an alcohol-free alternative. And so my lineup is starting to expand. I added the sparkling wine. I just got in a new line of ready to serve alcohol-free cocktails. So there's an alcohol-free mojito, an alcohol-free, it's called a bitter aperitif, but it's like an Aperol spritz, and a gin and tonic. And they're the cutest little bottles. They're like, the marketing on these is phenomenal. And like you still feel like you're participating, right? Yeah. Oh, and a lot of, I'm getting a lot of people buying for pregnant women, like lots of baby showers. Yes. Although I did have a mom come in and buy several bottles for of the sparkling wine for a high school graduation, right? Oh, so she didn't want to serve, right? They're only 18. So she didn't want to serve. They wanted to have a toast, but she bought several bottles of alcohol-free sparkling wine.
Great. So, and how does the price compare to alcohol? Like let's say a sparkling wine, like you can get.
So yeah, the sparkling wine, the one I sell is $25 a bottle.
Okay.
Again, that's the naughty. It's really well priced. The gin, they have a 750 milliliter bottle for $35. It depends on the brand. I'm getting some new wines. So I've got, I'll be getting in by the end of the summer, a red wine and a white wine that are alcohol free. And I think their price point's about $35 a bottle.
Okay.
But it's that, you know, once you start to appreciate the artisanship that goes in it, like you are buying a bottle of gin or you are buying a bottle of wine. So the price point is comparable.
Yes.
But yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. But the cocktail world is huge. Like through the pandemic, people really went back to creating craft cocktails. So they're buying cocktail shakers. And even my husband and I were talking about it last week, that it's kind of like cooking a good meal, right? Like we'll have one drink before dinner, but we use fresh lemon juice. We use, you know, we're squeezing the lemons or squeezing the limes. You know, we're pouring out the ingredients and making it in the cocktail shaker. And it becomes like a bit of a ritual, right? Like creating a gourmet meal. And we have one drink, but it's really good. You know? You sip it and you savor it. And I think that that's changed the face of drinking a bit too, right? Like I was a bartender in the 90s. It was a wild west. Like we put everything in a test tube or a shot glass or in a pitcher, and it was blue. Right?
Yes.
It had horrible names for all of these drinks that typically had to do with sex and,
Yes, that's right.
They were, and
yeah, like they were asking for roofies to be thrown into them. Like they had the worst.
Yeah, they were horrible. And, the waitresses walking around with like just test tubes, and they would charge, and like, I don't know what the laws were, but everything seemed to be super cheap. So like you could buy a test tube shooter for $1, right? So, you spend $5 and you're hammered. And so there was no artisan thing. Like there was, and it was cheap, right? So now I think that this generation, you see so many restaurants opening up. A really awesome new restaurant opened in downtown Oakville called Beacon. Okay. Their cocktail menu is phenomenal. And, they're actually very well priced, but you'll pay a little bit more for this fancy cocktail that when it arrives at the table, it's in a cool glass. They've garnished it beautifully. There's like, I got a margarita from them, and it had black lava salt on the rim. And, like and the ingredients are really cool, and they're making their own syrups in house. So, and so it's not necessarily that you're going to have, like you're not paying $1 for them. So you're not going to have 5 of them. You might just have 1 or 2 through your meal. And so I think that's shifting the way that people drink as well, right? That they're savoring these beautiful drinks as opposed to just shooting back some blue stuff in a test tube.
Yes, exactly. Wow, this is so great. Yeah. I'm so excited for you, Chantal. So you're waking up every morning now, and you're just like so happy to go to work. And your daughter, she's working there with you sometimes?
Yeah, she is. So that's the beauty of having a 21-year-old daughter. So she's been my only employee. I've just actually hired a friend of hers who's going to be starting next week. So I've been super fortunate because I know how hard it is to find employees right now. Yeah. So between myself and them, we've been able to run the store. It's been great.
Oh, that's great. And how are you enjoying like all the facets of it? Are you doing all your own social media, and you're managing your website and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's crazy. But again, it's all of that. So I did marketing in the nonprofit world for so long that the marketing was never a problem for me. Like I love it. It's just the knowing, like 20 years ago when I worked in the store, we didn't have to take pictures every single day, and we didn't have to make videos, and we didn't have to create all this content, right? Like, so I try to be thoughtful about what I'm putting out there. And you really have like, making videos and reels, and that's a big new world. And then putting myself on camera has been the trickiest part for me. Right? Like I want to be the face of the brand, but then it's also like, oh, like I don't really like the way I look today. So I don't think I want to, film a video today, like it's.
I know. I hear you.
Yeah.
I have a couple, I was so against filters, and now I have a couple of friends who are like, there's some soft ones that aren't, and then those days where you didn't get the eyeliner on, it'll just put a little eyeliner on or whatever. Yeah. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. Or on those days too, I can always do the I'll turn the camera and film the store with my voice as opposed to being on the camera. So, but yeah, so it's the hardest thing I've ever done, opening this business. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's the most satisfying because it's all for me. At the end of the day, the store has become my little sanctuary. It's, I love it, opening the doors every morning. The customers are phenomenal. I love to talk to people. People are, it's amazing. I don't know, maybe I'm in this like weird dream state, but I feel like even from 20 years ago that people are so much nicer. And I don't know if it's just like a post-pandemic thing that people are like so excited to be back in stores and experiencing things. But I get, people are so complimentary about the store. They love to come in. I always make sure I've got great music playing, and, it's a pretty store. It's a really pretty store. And my whole thing was that to compete with online these days, it has to be experiential, right? Like I have to make people not only want to buy product, but they want to be in the store. They want to be a part of it. I want people to feel welcome. I want people to want to come in and say, oh, like, you know, what's new, or, you know, what's going on in the store.
Yeah.
So that was the goal.
Oh, that's so great. So what's your, if you had to pick one part of your business that you love the most, what's your favorite part?
That's the tough one. That's tough. I really, I think I do enjoy the marketing. So I do enjoy that piece, but I also really enjoy being in the store talking to people.
Yeah.
Right? Like my whole thing is, I don't want to make sales. I want to make customers. Mm-hmm. And I heard your story on one of your other talks about Joelle and the shoes and calling the other store.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I'm exactly like that. Like if a customer comes in and they can't find it in my store, I'm going to tell them which other store in downtown Oakville they can go to. Because like the downtown strip, and I'm a part of the BIA. I've joined the board of the BIA. So I want to support the other businesses, because without all of the businesses in downtown Oakville, I can't succeed, right? Like we're all drawing customers to the area. Yes. So there's a phenomenal store across the street from me called Artifacts. And, you know, I've had customers walk in the door and say, oh, they told me across the street I had to come in here. And, you know, someone's come in looking for something in my store. And I say, oh, go and, you know, go to Artifacts across the street because they'll have it. So you have to collaborate and we have to work together.
Yeah, so true. I love this, Chantal. It's so, isn't it awesome, like, to be surrounded by women who just want to see other women succeed and encourage them to, you know, like we can do anything. And I loved how you answered the question about, you know, coming out of that transition in 2019 from losing that job, and how it was these women who were surrounding you that, you know, lifted you up and helped you along your way. And we really, you know, we can be there for each other in such a big way. So yeah,
absolutely. There's no reason to put each other down when we can lift each other up.
Exactly. Well, Wonder Woman, I'm going to cheers you because I want to see your mug.
Yeah. Well, yay. There we go.
Chantal, thank you so much for your time. I got to get myself over to your store for a visit soon.
Yeah, come and visit for sure. We'll set you up with some of that alcohol-free.
Yeah. I would love that. That'd be awesome. Yeah, thank you for all your time. I'm going to put you in the virtual back room while I say goodbye to everybody, and I'll see you in just a second. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh my gosh, that was so great. I want to drive over there right now and fill up my cart with some yummy drinks. Thank you. As I said, I'm going to be taking a break for the next couple of months, enjoying the summer. I'll be back in September with a whole lineup of new guests and can't wait to share them all with you. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, please click the subscribe button, and do not forget that brendabadome.com and glamjewels.com are open all summer long. So make sure you get on our websites and shop to your heart's desire. And when you are shopping with Brenda, you want to make sure you use the coupon code Get to Know Her for 22% off of your order. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day and keep on showing the world your sparkle. Bye.